Hello, you. Welcome back to the deep dive.
Hello, great to be here.
Today we're tackling something that really touches communities all across the U.S. It's
Mhm.
about how important projects, the things that make a difference locally, actually get funded.
Right, we're going to talk about grants.
Exactly. Grants. And we'll look at some recent news, too, about the U.S. government deciding to cancel some of these grants.
Yeah, that's been causing a bit of a stir.
Our goal today is really just to help you understand what's going on. What does this news mean, and why should you care? We want to make it clear without getting too bogged down in jargon.
Absolutely. It's about understanding how government money works and how decisions made, maybe far away, can affect things right in your neighborhood.
Okay, so maybe the best place to start is with the basics. Let's unpack some key words you might hear around this topic. First up, grant. What exactly is a grant?
Right, so a grant, think of it like a gift of money, but it's a gift with a purpose.
A purpose.
Yeah, it's money given by, say, the government or maybe another organization to help people or groups do specific things, usually good things for the community.
Okay, like a gift for a project. Can you give an example?
Sure, like the school received a grant to buy new computers. The money's just for the computers.
Got it. So it's specific. Okay, next word. Government. We hear this all the time.
We do. Simply put, the government is the group of people who run a country or a state. They make the decisions, the rules, the laws.
The decision makers, like the government makes laws.
Exactly. That's the core idea. Federal government for the whole country, state government for the state.
Perfect. Now, the news mentioned grants being canceled. What does cancel mean here?
Cancel just means to stop something. Stop it from happening or stop it from continuing.
Okay. Like, oh, the train was canceled because of the snow. It's not running.
Precisely. So if a grant is canceled, the money that was promised, well, it's stopped. It won't be given.
Okay. That could be a problem for whoever was expecting it.
It certainly could.
All right, two more quick words. Program.
A program is basically a plan, a set of activities designed to achieve a specific goal.
Like a plan of action.
Yeah. For example, the after-school program helps kids with their homework. It's an organized activity with a goal helping kids learn.
Makes sense. And finally, community.
Community, that's usually the group of people living in the same place, like your town, your neighborhood.
So maybe the community came together to clean up the park. Everyone in the area.
Exactly. It's about people in a shared space. And grants often aim to help a specific community.
Okay, great. So we have grant, government, cancel, program, community. That helps set the stage.
Definitely.
Now let's talk about why these grants are, so important. Why do they matter so much?
They matter because they often pay for things that communities really need, things that might not happen otherwise.
Like what kind of things?
Well, looking at the information around this recent news, a few areas stand out. One is hate crime prevention.
Hate crime prevention. So stopping actions that hurt people because of, who they are, their race or religion.
Exactly. Grants can fund programs that teach tolerance, support victims, or help communities work together to, prevent these awful incidents before they even happen.
Okay, that sounds vital. What else?
Another big one mentioned is help for opioid abuse. That's a huge problem in many parts of the U.S.
Yeah, you hear about that a lot. Addiction to certain drugs.
Right, so grants can fund things like treatment centers, counseling, outreach programs to get people the help they need. These can literally save lives.
Wow, okay. And you mentioned a third area.
Yes, gun violence prevention, another really tough issue.
So grants can help with that too. How?
They can support different approaches, maybe community programs offering positive activities, mental health support, or education about safe gun storage, things aimed at making the community safer from gun violence.
So it sounds like grants are often funding these really crucial frontline efforts in communities.
That's a good way to put it. They're often the financial backbone, as you said, for tackling some serious social issues.
Which brings us back to the news about cancellations. If these grants are so important, why would the government cancel them?
Well, it often comes down to how government funding works. We need to talk about something called discretionary funds.
Discretionary funds. Okay, what's that?
Think of the government's total money, its budget. Some of it has to be spent on certain things. It's required by law. But there's another pot of money where they have some choice. That's discretionary.
Discretionary, like they have discretion or choice on how to spend it.
Exactly. They can decide where this money goes each year. And, well, this pot of money isn't endless. Choices have to be made.
And those choices depend on what?
They depend on the government's priorities.
Priorities, meaning what they think is most important right now.
Precisely. What the government sees as the biggest needs or the most important goals at that moment, and priorities can change.
Ah, okay, so if priorities change.
Then how they spend that discretionary money might change too.
And that
can lead to reallocation.
reallocation sounds like moving money around.
That's exactly it. To reallocate means to move funds from one program or area to another. So if a new priority emerges, they might take money away from something else, maybe cancel some existing grants, and reallocate it to the new priority.
So the grant cancellations we're hearing about could be because the government decided to shift its priorities and reallocate that discretionary money elsewhere.
That's often the reason given, yes. It's presented as a shift in focus, moving resources to where they believe they're now needed most.
That helps connect the dots. Now, you mentioned federal and state governments earlier. Can you just quickly clarify the levels these cancel grants we're talking about? Where do they come from?
Right, so in the U.S., you generally have three main levels. There's the federal government, that's the national one, for the whole country. Then each state has its own state government. And then you have local governments, cities, towns, counties. The news we're discussing involves federal grants. So the money and the decision to cancel came from the national level, the federal government in Washington, D.C.
Got it. So it reflects national level decisions about spending.
Correct. It shows how those national priorities we talked about are playing out.
So thinking about what happens next, what are the potential effects of these cancellations?
Well, the most immediate effect is on the programs themselves, the ones that lost funding.
Right.
They might have to cut back services, maybe let staff go, or in the worst case, shut down completely if they can't find other money quickly.
And that impacts the community they were serving.
Directly. Fewer services for opioid treatment, less support for hate crime victims, potentially fewer resources for gun violence prevention efforts, whatever the grant was for.
How are people likely to react, people who supported these programs?
You can expect disappointment, maybe anger. People who believe these programs are vital might speak out. They could contact lawmakers, try to raise awareness, push to get the funding back.
But is it possible some people might agree with the cancellations?
Oh, sure. That's also possible. Some might agree with the government's new priorities, thinking the money is better spent elsewhere now.
Or maybe they just don't think the government should fund these things.
That too. There can be philosophical disagreements. Some people believe certain issues are better handled by private charities, or maybe by state or local governments, not the federal one. So reactions can be quite mixed.
It's definitely complex. There isn't always one simple answer or reaction.
Rarely is when it comes to government spending.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key things you hope people take away from this?
I think first, just understanding what grants are, that they're this important way to fund community work. Second, knowing those keywords like discretionary funds, priorities, reallocate, helps make sense of why cancellations might happen.
Right, it gives you the tools to understand the news.
Exactly. And third, recognizing that these decisions, these shifts in funding, have real-world consequences for communities, and that, well, people will have different views on whether those decisions are right or wrong.
That's a great summary. And for you, listening, we really hope this makes things clearer when you hear about government grants or funding changes. Think about those words we discussed: grant, government, cancel, program, community. How do they connect to things happening around you? And maybe something to ponder on your own. How should decisions about government funding priorities be made? When money is limited, like it always is, what factors do you think are most important to consider?
That's a big question.
It is. Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for joining today's chat on Your Daily English Spark. If you enjoyed this session and want to keep improving your English, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. What topic would you like us to cover next? Let me know in the comments. And don't miss our next episode, where we'll dive into mastering small talk. See you next time.